Hello everybody, welcome to my tour review. I am George, 80s Transformers fan and also Master of the Universe fan. And in front of me I have Tri-Klops and this brown mailer. There's nothing special about this mailer. I'm going to try to get right to the figure. And the figure comes in this display packaging. It has the Castle Grayskull jaw bridge on the front. On the side it has the sides of Grayskull, and back Master of the Universe. And Super 7 logo down there. On this side, the other side of the castle. And this is just a slip cover. We can remove this to take a look at Triclops inside. And here he is in a very nice window packaging. You can see the figure inside and all of his accessories on display. And also some decoration from the inside of Castle Grayskull in the background. Very nice touch. If you've seen any of my other reviews, you heard me say I really love this packaging, and I really do. They should put everybody in a similar type packaging. They could have did something similar with Snake Mountain for the villains. This could have been like the snake mouth for the villains. That would have been cool. But anyway, very nice packaging. And again, there's Triclops inside. Master of the Universe Triclops here, Adult Collector, Super 7. The side, they have a little window in here. You see the figure, and on the back is Triclops and Snake Mountain on the back. And I'm going to bring them closer so you can lock in on that bio. You can pause it and read it if you care to. And they've given these guys bios again, or for the first time. The first wave just had a generic little snippet saying they were designed after the original cartoon. And that's pretty much it for the packaging. I'm going to go ahead and get inside if I can. Cut the tape. Now Triclops, when I was a kid, his vintage figure was one of my favorites. The cartoon spoiled a lot of things for me. You know, and before I continue my little story, here's the inside of the packaging. It looks very, very nice. You can see the windows from the inside as well. It's a heck of a touch. And on top of the packaging is the eyes and nose to the top of the castle. And move that out of here. But anyway, Triclops was one of my favorites until like the cartoon came, and he was like really sparingly used. I think his biggest episode was the Royal Cousin, when him and Evil Lyn attacked Grayskull with like a rock softener thing. He had like his biggest role on that. He has one little tie to his back. But my vintage toy, he was the only one of the original Evil Warriors that shared like pretty much the exact same body as He-Man. And I would have this guy grappling back and forth with He-Man. He didn't have the fur or the demon feet on his vintage Master of the Universe figure. And I used to imagine he could actually go toe-to-toe with He-Man. Try to slide this sword out. Hope it's not warped. But I was really a huge fan of Triclops until the cartoon, and he didn't get a whole lot of airtime. And then they made very little use of his eyes and his abilities, like the X-ray vision and the different things he can do with his rotating eye. Speaking of rotating eye, I've heard there's a problem with his visor not being able to rotate, and he has this little gun. I can just pop it out. I don't know how many times. They recycled a lot of animation, but I remember this gun from episode when Skeletor, I'm dropping stuff everywhere, when Skeletor was draining the Sea of Eternia and they couldn't breathe. So there was like no oxygen, and he had it in his hand. I don't even think he used it, he just dropped it. You see it's very anime accurate. It has like no detail on it. Looks like something from Star Trek. And he comes packaged with his sword in his hand, and out of my packaging his sword is warped. Bummer. I don't know why they package a lot of things like that, like across the packaging, when they could just put it on the side in here and we won't have to worry about swords and weapons warping in the packaging, because it's pretty good. And a lot of times you can heat this stuff up or bend it back and it will bend back, but you shouldn't have to go through all that just to get it going. Speaking of heating up things, the visor, I'm going to go straight for that. And from what I understand in production, see if I can adjust my camera a bit. in production, I don't know if they rushed it or what, but the paint underneath the visor dried and it makes it almost impossible to rotate. It's supposed to rotate the visor, but mine does not rotate. But before I get any deeper into that, back Tri-Klops up. If I get them all the way in the shot. Alright, I guess that's good enough. Well, here is the Filmation version of Triclops in the Grayskull line from Super 7. And the body looks great. It looks just like He-Man's. Just like the vintage toy. My paint appears to be a little bit okay. I got a little bit of paint splotching here. Underneath his waist. Underneath his belt. Other than that, we're looking pretty good. Got a little scuffing here. It's not bad. It's under his boot. And he has on like complete trunks. It's not just a little loincloth hanging down in the back like the classics figures. It's like connected under his legs, which is pretty sweet. It's like he's actually wearing trunks. Because you can see like his skin tone underneath there. We don't want to see that, but he looks pretty good. And speaking of looks, his armor, as everyone knows, is like this lighter green, and it didn't match the prototypes. And they said they did this to kind of distinguish it more from the other version. But definitely not the color it was on a cartoon. But it doesn't really bother me because somehow, even though it's not cartoon accurate, it's still, the color's cartoony. The funny thing is, his body's not quite lined up. Like his waist is going this way a little bit. I don't know if you can tell through the camera, but I'm trying to turn it here, and that was tight. Looked like it was sticking at the paint, but now it's loose. And yeah, like here where you can see like the belt underneath, you see where it's like just not quite lined up. Like his belt is over this way. I've seen pictures on social media where the entire crotch is on backwards. Like literally he has his butt in the front. Glad I didn't get one of those. But a quick look at the guy, he's done well. A quick look, other than the buttons are facing a little bit to my right and his left, when it's supposed to be like dead on. Okay, let's take a look at his articulation. I already told you, can't get his visor to move, but there's a trick to it, and I know the trick, and I'm going to get to it. It's pretty much, if you've seen any Master of the Universe male guys, it's pretty much the same buck. It might be like filed down a little bit to get his arms down. I think these guys' arms stick a little bit closer to the body than the normal classics guys. But his arms, so we get them up this far from side to side. I can take it and I can swivel all the way around, and he has a much softer armor piece than from the classics line. I never opened my MOTU Club Grayskull line, so I don't know if they share the same soft armor. But Tila and Man at Arms has soft armor. He has soft armor. Get his arm up this high. He has a bicep swivel, 360s there, an elbow bend. It's not bad there. You can get what you want out of it. Because of these guys' bulk, you really can't get that much positioning out of it with the biceps and everything. He has a hinge at his wrist. He swings in and out, and it 360s. Coming down to his waist, I already 360 the guy. His waist 360s. He has the standard legs with the ball joint and the swivel. Tila did not have the ball and swivel in hers. Hers did not swivel, but his upper thigh swivels. It can even 360 if you want. Spread it out that far to the side. There's a good look at his joints. And they look a little bit thicker, I guess, because it's a male than Tila's. Tila's kind of scared me a little bit. They're so thin in there, but I don't know with this little new design in there. They look a little thin. Coming to his knee, it's very tight, but I got it to bend. And it's a little bit pale in there. Wow. His knee bends that much. Get it up that far, and you can see the cut at the boot. There it is. Now it swivels. I had to like break it free. And he has a rocker front to back at his ankle. And that is Tri-Klops articulation other than his visor. Oh wait, let's see if his head can look up and down. I got a little bit more range out of his head than Tila and Man-at-Arms. So he can actually look up and down. I'm going to take his sword. I'm going to see if he can hold his sword. In his sword, there's a lot of detailing in his sword, like far as what they're doing with the classic guys. It looks just like the sword from the vintage card back. And it has some silver on it. The blade is silver. The hilt is gold. And the very bottom is some more silver with a designing in there. And I say it because anywhere else this would be like a normal sword, but they really dulled down the 2.0 guys as weapons. So this kind of looks like it doesn't belong. It looks like it belongs with the vintage Triclops actually. And the classics version of vintage Triclops. He holds his sword just fine. I can get them all in a shot. He can hold his bent sword just fine. And I'm going to take his gun that I don't think he even fired a shot at He-Man and Garth on that episode where they were draining the Eternian Sea. And it looks like my guy is like leaning just a little bit this way. A little bit. He's not quite standing up straight. Yeah, he's like tilted this way. I don't know. And he has like this orangish tint. His vintage figure was always a little dark, but when they did the classics, he was more pale. But this goes back to like the dark look. He has like a little bit of orangish tan to him. Looks like Hulk Hogan. The later years NWO Hulk Hogan. Take a look at the back of his armor. It does not come off intentionally, but you probably can get it off, but then you probably have to glue it back. You can move it around. It's flexible. Well, he has the ab crunch in there, and because of the way his armor is designed, is pushing it back a little bit. But he does have it. And I'm going to get to his vintage figure. I mean, his classics figure. I keep saying vintage. This is his classics figure. And it's a little bit more jazzed up than the vintage figure. They added some details to this one. And his eyes were like a blue, a red, and a green. I think he had two red eyes on the original vintage figure. But you can see his skin tone is a lot lighter here. And his sword looks like it belongs to this guy, but it is very reminiscent of the vintage figure. But this sword pretty much, they'll do that. They'll throw weaponry in to use it with another character. It looks like it could be a better fit with this guy. And this sword looks like a better fit with this guy. But there is the classics version of Triclops. I wish I could show you better, but I haven't decided to open these just yet. Okay, that guy's out of here. Now to the visor. I know a lot of people are adding heat to this to pop it off and scrape the paint so it'll twist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video right now, get a hair dryer, heat it up, and see if I can get it off. It should be fun. Okay, with the hair dryer, it took some trying, and here I got 3 things out of it. Actually 4 things. I was able to get one of these figures head off the ball joint for the first time with the hair dryer. I wasn't trying to, but it happened. And here is his head with the visor off, and you can see like the paint stuck to it. The top of his head, I wouldn't say skull. The paint stuck to it. And here is the second thing I got, is the bottom of the visor with the paint coming off. And apparently instead of using green plastic, they painted it. This looks like a gray in there, and they painted it green. Why not just use the same damn green plastic from here, so we don't have to worry about it scraping off? And you can see it look where I've poked it and it's gotten kind of rough taking it off. And then the third thing I got taking it off is I was prying it with the screwdriver and stuck myself with the screwdriver. Thanks, Super 7. No, but that was my fault. That was my fault. I should have been a little bit more careful. So I don't know if it's just going to just rotate. I'm going to try to get some of this gunk off, get it back on there, and see if it rotates. Alright everybody, in video time it wasn't that long, but it took me a little second to take it off, get the glue off, get the paint off, and get it back on there, but now it rotates. And the funny thing is, I don't know if they ever said it was supposed to rotate. It might have been meant to be static, but now it rotates either way. There's different eyes, or different shaped eyes. You got the square, the round, and the triangle. And let's see if I can get it back on the ball peg without heating it up. And I probably should heat it up, but I'm just curious, like now that I got it off, will it go on and off without all the trouble? And it snapped back on there pretty good. And it comes off. There it is. It's functioning a lot better. You shouldn't have to go through this with a new figure, especially a $35 figure. And I actually came up with a battle scar from it. And again, I was being careless. So now, the last bit of Triclops articulation. Rotate between his eyes. I forgot what each eye does. I know one of them is an X-ray eye. I know as a kid, I pretended he had like a heat vision, and the blue eye was like a cold ice vision, but I don't remember what they do. But I know one of them is X-ray vision. He can see around solid objects. Yeah. That's what Skeletor would say. And my figure is leaning. Like, it's like almost as if this one leg is longer. I've been trying to play around with it to get it. But he's like tilted this way. But he's a very basic figure, as all the figures are in this line. There's really not much to this guy. They could have waited. I'm happy to have him. But they could have waited a little bit longer, churned out some more people till they got to this guy. And plus, it just wasn't that big a difference from his vintage figure to the anime in the first place. A little bit less detail in the armor. But this was basically what you got with the original toy. So, I'm happy to have Triclops. They got a boatload of villains now for this Club Grayskull line. More villains than heroes. And they really could have waited for this guy. But I'm a Triclops fan. I really am. Overall, if I didn't have to mess with the visor, he'd be one of the better guys. And that's probably because of his simplicity. He's a little bit better than Man-at-Arms. He doesn't have all the extra detailing where the paint went bad on Man-at-Arms a little bit. Because he doesn't have that much paint. He's just the trunks, the belt, the boots, the armor, and the visor. And his visor is like nice and tight to his head like the cartoon. It was like it barely fits. Like he was just uncomfortable under there. Okay, my overall thoughts on this figure is like I said, he's better done to me than anybody I've opened so far. Just because he has the least amount of detailing, I didn't have to worry about all the different paint apps because he doesn't even have them. The fact that his stance is leaning a little bit this way is a little bit of a bummer. I don't like that. Then everything I had to go through just to get the visor thing to work, gimmick or whatever to work, wasn't that bad, but you shouldn't have to go through it. Paying for these figures. Got the warp sword. But sometimes you can't expect that much from the companies and these figures. And they send them out to get done in these foreign countries or whatever. But I think he's a definite pickup. If you're in the Master of the Universe, he's one of Skeletor's original warriors from like the first wave. Only guy left, I think, is Merman. He's coming out in the next wave. So if you're going to collect these, you kind of got to get him. And then Merman will complete the set of the villains. Because we have Beastman, Trapjaw, Evelyn, and Skeletor. So with him, it's Triclops and then Merman last. Speaking of Skeletor, here's my classics Skeletor next to him to give him a little bit of comparison, height-wise and everything else. And we're going to see how Triclops fits into a vehicle. Bring out my Roton. Take his weapons out. He should sit pretty well. He doesn't even have any of the loincloth sticking down or sticking out. If I can get him nice and seated. Looks like his legs come up further than the other classics guys because it's a softer piece. We get these up. I have never put anybody in this toy, I don't think. I think my son squoze somebody in here once or twice, but I've never done it. And there is Triclops. Let's get his eyeball straight. Which one did he come packaged in? With the round eye? I think the round eye. And him and Skeletor can attack Grayskull. Forward, my warrior! Yeah, Skeletor is not that good. I am George, the 80s Transformer fan. Thank you for joining me for another toy review, and I'll see you soon.